Hi, it's Tracy. Welcome to my home here in Sussex, England. Today we're bringing spring into the kitchen. There'll be lots of styling, creative DIYs and a trip to the auctions. But first, let's gather some inspiration. I often find that my design ideas come from one small item, and this time it's candles. So I've pulled out my stash and just seeing what really grabs me, and these sunflower candles. Absolutely, I want to use those. Now, I've got lots of leftover muslin from my daughter's wedding. I use these down long tables. I pulled out one of my dye pods. Now, I use these quite a lot, and for some reason, I've got a sunflower colour, and I've got some old cotton napkins that I've not used in decades. I bought 7 stems of this faux forsythia in the sales after Christmas, so I think those colours together, we're starting to get a bit of a scheme going. Couple with that an old tea towel, some raffia that I ordered off Amazon, and a little bit of paint. You can't have a makeover without some paint. I found these eggs for £1.49 for 10 in Home Bargains. Now, I think they're a bit pants personally, but we can do something with those. I also popped out to my local garden centre, which tends to be what I do right at the beginning of spring, looking for inspiration. And generally, I find inspiration there. But, I've done this for the last few years, and you've seen me buy outdoor plants, pot them up and put them in the kitchen. Wasn't really grabbing me this year, so I think we'll do something a little different. I did pop into the local supermarket, and as luck would have it, they had some gypsyphila, or baby's breath, just £2 a bundle, so we grabbed some of that. And lemons. I'm loving the lemon colour. And some golf balls, some bright luminous yellow golf balls. Don't worry, this is going to be a tasteful design, I promise you. Let's get to dyeing this fabric. Now, these pods are super simple to use. You wash your fabric, then put it through on a full cycle with the pod in, give it another wash, and then, we have a very bright colour. Let's start with the kitchen table. And the first thing I always do when I'm decorating the table is pull all the chairs back. It just makes it so much easier to whip around. Now, this is bright. I know I said I was going to use colour. This is bright. And as I often say to you, just trust the process. It's going to be fine. Now, I wanted to use some placemats. I've got big ones, I've got small ones, but I've had these for years and years, black. Black was not really going to cut it. So I thought, let's change the colour. So the Annie Sloan paint is out. I'm using Arl. And after giving it a good stir, I'm going to put on a good coat of paint. After the second coat had thoroughly dried, I went on with clear wax. Now, that will soak right down through the paint onto the underneath, and it will make it solid, so it'll be absolutely fine to use. Then I just wanted to age it slightly, give a little bit of texture to it. So I went over with just a little bit of dark wax, just wiping it back so it went into all the little cracks into the design. So once the wax dries, it really makes it a hard, durable surface. Now, I was super pleased with the results. It's gone from that awful shiny black to a tan leather. I'm loving these. So what to run down the middle? Let's head over to the auctions and have a good old rummage around, see what they've got, and see if we can find anything we can incorporate into the spring styling. I'm particularly interested in having a few bids on mirrors. I'm planning on doing in the hallway, going up the staircase, a mirror gallery wall. all the way on that blank wall. If you've been with me for a while, you'll know what the hallway looks like. So we might be having a little punt on some mirrors while we're here. Lots of copper jugs here this week. Now, I did get 3 Victorian copper jugs just before Christmas, which I used in the Christmas styling. And I got those for just £50 for 3 of them. Loving the colour of these books. These would have been perfect when I was doing my office makeover. I've never owned a doll's house, but I've bought lots of houses in this condition and made them over, but never this small. Huge amount of china here. This would be a really good lot. Unfortunately, I don't need any more china. I've got loads of it. If you've been with me for a while, you'll know exactly what I mean. Just before Christmas, I found 5 boxes of red transferware. Oh, and we've got some more here, although only 3 boxes. For just £30, which I used in the Christmas decorating. My heart still races when I think of that find. Oh, hello. You're rather nice. Well, it was successful bidding, and here's the first lot. I am so excited. I got these for just £35. So we've got a 1 gallon and a 2 gallon. Now I'm going to couple those with the 3 copper Victorian ones that I got just before Christmas. So I think that collection together is going to be fabulous. I'm popping the 2 gallon in the middle. Now, I've seen these online on Etsy and eBay, the 2 gallon going for £200 to £300. Bearing in mind, I've just paid £35 for 2. I think I did well. Next up are a couple of garlands that I found at the end of last summer. It was in one of my shop and haul videos, and these were just £9.99 from HomeSense. I didn't really know what I was going to do with them at the time. I thought maybe I'd change the colour with a bit of paint, but actually I think these are going to be ideal. When I see something that is such a bargain, I think I might not know what to do with it yet, but I know I'm going to find something to do with it, so it has to come home with me. I was hoping to bring out the red transferware, but it was just too much going on with the yellow. So I've opted for the white ironstone. This is vintage burleyware in the Davenport design of embossed strawberries and grapes. I got 196 pieces for £35 at auction. Oh yeah, this is smug face. Smug face. You don't always have to set a table with glassware. I'm going to use cups and saucers because I'm setting this for a lunch and most of my friends will be driving. And those that want a sneaky gin, well, they can hide it in their teacup. The yellow napkins, well, they were cotton, so they died, and they're finally going to get an outing after being sat in a drawer for years and years. They're not very big, so I'm going to pop them into the cups, and they look almost like flowers. Time for those candles now that have inspired the whole scheme. And of course, if you want to keep your candles straight and solid, use museum wax, just a nice little dollop on the end, little bit of pressure, pop it into the holder, and it will keep your candles straight. Time to bring in the lemons. Now, I've given these a scrub and a dry, and they're going to go onto the table. Now, when the lunch is finished, before you start jumping on me and saying I'm completely wasting food here, these are going to go into airtight bags and into the freezer, where they will live quite happily till I need to cook with them. Ribbon. Now, I used this ribbon last spring, so we're going for a bit of recycling. Just back to the lemons for a moment. If you've not frozen whole lemons before, do so, because it really does work. They're so much easier to zest when they're frozen solid. You can defrost them really quickly, 20 minutes in some warm water. And then when you juice them, you get so much more juice out of them. Or you can slice them, dry them, and use them in your Christmas styling. Now, if you're wondering where the furry supervisor is, he's absolutely exhausted on the sofa. He's normally sat in this chair that you can see in the background here, but no, he was having none of it this time, so I've been left to my own devices. The Gypsophila baby's breath is going onto the table without any water because I want it to dry back naturally, and then I'll be able to use it again and again in my styling. Now into the jugs, I'm going to use some faux heather. My daughter bought me some for Christmas, so I went and bought a little bit more, and I thought it's a really versatile faux plant to use. Faux can be really quite expensive, especially the good stuff. So when I do invest in it, I really want to see it as an investment. I want to be able to use it again and again. And I think this one in particular, I should be able to use all year round, quite frankly. Let's move over to the chandeliers. Now, in the kitchen, I've got two of these crystal chandeliers. I brought them from my last house. In fact, I brought 6 of them with me. Different sizes, and these are 2 of the bigger ones. I'm going to do a bit of a makeover on the covers that go over the bulb holders, and I'm going to give them a really good clean as well because they do need it. So we've got 9 on each, so 18 to make over. And I've set up a little workstation outside. I really don't want to be spraying in the kitchen. So I'm going to use my favourite gold spray. It's called Gold, but I think of it more like a brass. And I found the easiest way to do this is just put a pair of gloves on and use your 2 fingers in the cylinder. And that way you can give a good rotation and make sure all the paint gets covered. After a couple of layers, thoroughly dried, and then I'm going to age them, give them a little bit of interest with some dark wax. After leaving the wax to dry for 24 hours, I then give them a buff with a cloth. That just takes off any surplus wax and it gives it a nice little sheen. It's a small makeover, but it does have a big impact. Those are my favourite type. Now over to Big Mo, as we like to call her, Mahogany Mo. This was an £80 auction find that I did a lot of reparation work to and painted her white, and she's just a joy to style. Now, first up, I'm going to do something quite simple. I'm just going to change the colour of the books. I've got a big stash of vintage books, which I love to style with. So for spring, we're going with green. Onto the open books, I'm going to put a £7.50 glass dish that I found in a charity shop, but we need something to go in it. So let's head down to the storage sheds. And hello, Bertie. Yeah, finally got your bloody ass off that sofa. Now, in here, we have huge amounts of golf balls. You'll have seen this stash before if you've been with me for a while. And of course, when I saw these bright, luminous, yellowy green ones, I thought, fabulous. Let's order some raffia and let's get the glue gun out. And we're going to cover the golf balls in the yellow raffia. Okay, yes, I may have gone a little bit OTT with the finger protectors, but better safe than sorry. And I'm really pleased with the results. They look like bright seed pods to me. Now I want to put some moss with them and don't have to go very far because right by the front door, we've got some ready to scoop up. Again, the gypsum filler is being used without water so it can dry back and I can keep on using it. Over to the other side of the kitchen now and the big old pine dresser that we have here. Now I'm quite happy with everything that's on there. I do want to do something with this beautiful old stone pot that I've got. And in order to put something in there, it can have a little bit of a leaky bottom. So we're going to put a big vase of water in there and then we're going to head outside and see what we can find. We are getting such cold, frosty mornings at the moment, which are absolutely beautiful. Bertie certainly loves it. You know, we're out there as the sun comes up, and as the day goes on, it gets a little bit warmer. But it's not quite warm enough yet for lots of things to be coming on. So the pickings are few and far between, but we'll get the barrow and we will go and have a mooch around. I love to style with Pussy Willow in the spring, but this one is not quite ready yet. There are lots of catkins out, but in the past, when I've brought these into the house, it just ends up like a hot mess. So we're going to enjoy those in the field, I think, and not in the house. I've got an oak tree here that I did mean to cut off these lower branches last autumn, and I never got round to it. And they're really quite low to the ground now. So I think I might be having a little nibble of those, and they're in bud, so they'll be quite nice to decorate with. This branch had pulled away in a storm. I was going to pull it down, but I left it, and then it's starting to shoot up all these whips, which are fabulous for making wreaths out of. So I'll be having a go at that later in the spring decorating. We have an abundance of laurel on the property, which is a lovely evergreen to be using, particularly at this time of year when there's not a lot around. So I think we'll be having a few snips of laurel. This is another evergreen, and I've got absolutely no idea what it's called. I do know this is my cherry tree, and the cherry blossom will be out soon. It's right next to the magnolia, so that will be coming up in future episodes. We're going to head over to closer to the house where I've got a bay tree. So this was clipped into a ball when we first moved in. And then I was so busy with various projects in the build and so on, I just never kept clipping it into a ball, and it grew into a full-size tree. So it's fabulous for decorating and for cooking with. I've only got 7 stems of this forsythia, so I'm going to divide it across the kitchen so it pulls that colour through, and I'm going to use 3 of them in this arrangement. Don't be frightened to mix your faux with real, because it really can elevate a display and actually make your faux look so much nicer. I'm going to pop a few green books underneath this pot, and if I've got any of the gypsophila left at the end, it'll go in this pot and then dry back, and I can keep on using it in other rooms. Now let's find another vessel for this greenery, and here's another auction lot that I got. Oh my goodness, be still my beating heart. This copper jug is a 4-gallon copper jug, and I got it for £40. That's what the hammer came down at. And I've been online and I have seen these for £400 to £600. I did good. I did really good. I don't think I could sell it though at the moment. I just absolutely love it. This is going to be styled all year round. Now in this one, I'm going to use, I started off with 2 of the forsythia, but actually it needed 3. So mix that with the bay and I was more than happy. Over to the sink island now. I'm happy with the items that are on there. I've got my Welsh butter press, I've got some brass candle holders, and also my big brass scales, which at the moment I've just popped some coins in. I mean, we never use money these days. I want to put something just behind the taps here, and I've got this milk churn lid. It's a copper one. I found it in a charity shop, and I'm going to add some bark. If you saw all my styling that I did before Christmas, you'll know we had an abundance of bark from a tree that came down. To that, I've added some faux greenery, and then I'm going to pop in the remainder of the raffia wrapped golf balls and some baby's breath. over to the countertops now, and I've got this great big pot that I used a very loose finish of my faux stone effect on. Now I've got in there some chicken wire and some stems of magnolia. So the magnolia was from my spring decorating last year, and I've carried on using it through the seasons. And now I want to cover up that chicken wire with a different material because I had been using hessian. So I've got some of the dyed muslin, and I'm just going to wrap that around and work it in. So it gives a lovely little pop of yellow. But what to put on those branches? Well, of course, we've got these eggs. Remember those from the beginning? Yeah, they're really not doing it for me. So I think the price was great, £1.49 for 10 of these, but the colour's not, so we're going to change the colour. So to start with, I'm going to remove the hangers and then pick away at the glue that's on there, just so I've got a nice clean base to start painting with. Remember that can of paint I showed you earlier? Well, that's going to come out now. So we're going to go back out onto the veranda, back to the spraying station. And I've got some long skewers, which I'm going to use inside the egg. And that just gives me a way of being able to hold and rotate, cover them with paint, and then poke them into the cardboard. But Houston, we have a problem. The paint is just not sticking. I don't know what is on these eggs. So I'm going to go back to my tried and trusted method of using chalk paint. So after a couple of coats of chalk paint, I thought, I wonder if that yellow paint would now stick. Now, I don't want them completely covered in yellow, so I gave them a little bit of a dusting, and it just created such a lovely effect. Very happy with that, but I want my speckles. So I've got my Annie Sloan Enfleur out. I've watered that down, and I'm using an old nail brush to create amazing speckles. Once those were dry, I then reattached the little twine hangers. Most of them actually just poked in and they were good and solid. Others I had to drop a little bit of glue on. Before we do some more countertop styling, I want to show you another auction find that I got. I got the chair. Oh, I just loved this so much. The leather is immaculate. It is absolutely filthy, needs a really good clean, and the hammer came down at £120. That is not a lot of money for a chair like this. My first thought with it, aside from giving it a really good clean, was maybe try and take the darkness down in that wood. But I just thought it was too risky to do that. So I set about cleaning the leather and it came up absolutely beautifully. I actually used a product that I use for the leather in the cars, and that seemed to work absolutely fine. I did a little bit of light sanding on the wood, and then I went over all the wood with just a clear wax just to give it a little bit of a feed. Super pleased with it. I wanted to put it into the kitchen, but the furry supervisor was having none of it. So it's gone into the hallway, and yeah, he's pleased about that. And so am I. I just love it. £120. Anyway, let's get back to countertop styling. Now, I normally put a wreath on this mirror, but there's a lot going on in the kitchen. There's a very strong colour. So I'm just going to style at the bottom of it. Now I use this trug back in my Christmas decorating, put some packing materials in there and a couple of jars upside down. I brought the bark in that I used at Christmas because I just love the texture of it. I'm also adding back in the candlesticks along with the battery operated candles. But this is my new addition for spring. Oh, I've wanted faux artichokes for years, and this is finally the season for them. I got these off Amazon and I am so pleased with them. So I will link them down below for you. They're fabulous, absolutely fabulous. Moving over to the window here, I want to put a display in front of it. So I've used up all the fresh that I brought in with the twigs, and then I've added some faux to it. Now, I only had one of the forsythia left, so I've been able to weave that through. There are a couple of items that I've added, going back to what I said earlier, you know, when I see something, I just buy it, even though I don't know where it's going to go. And the yellow, I don't quite know what they are, but they were only £1.29. So I bought those and popped those in. I've used some faux pussy willow and a few of the bits and bobs. And there we go. We've got a lovely, bright, vibrant display, but I think I could do something more there. So if you remember the shop and haul that I did down in Cornwall earlier in January, that is a little riser that I got for £10 and stripped it back, popped some dark wax on, and I think it looks great underneath that arrangement. The vase here is a ceramic pot that I found in a charity shop and I did my faux stone effect on. And the tea towel from earlier, this is now going to become the decorative tea towel, not to be used, not to be put away. Are you listening, family? Right? I'm not bonkers. This is a thing. We have decorative tea towels. And yes, we did have a little bit of the gypsophila, the baby's breath left, so that went into the pot. Thank you so much for joining me this week. And if you want to see the other items that I scored at auction, join me next time. Take care.